Welcome to more MS-DOS. This video is designed to take you to the next level in DOS and give you most of the remaining commands you'll be most likely to use. We assume that you have either used our previous video, Introduction to MS-DOS, or have a reasonable familiarity with your computer system and DOS. We assume you know how to change drives and directories, format disks, copy and erase files, make and delete subdirectories, name and rename files, and generally navigate your way around the keyboard and system, and move the cursor around the screen. A few thoughts, conventions, and rules before we start. The video does not repeat things to drum them into your head. That's what freeze frame and reverse on your VCR are for. We try to keep going at a no-nonsense pace. This video will not replace the documentation that came with your DOS software or third-party documentation you may have. It should, however, make them easier to use. This video is presented from your point of view. That is, we try to show you what you will be seeing on the screen or in your immediate work area as you use your computer and software. So you'll see a lot of screens and keyboards just like in real life. Our method is not to delve into every nook and cranny, but create a typical and useful example. We're confident that once you see how the program works, you can begin to successfully explore all the other features and applications. Of course, everything must be typed exactly correct. Computers aren't mind readers. Also, we don't enunciate the space bar when giving instructions, like backup C:123/budget A:. You'll see the typing on the screen. We've used titles generously, so you can find what you want in your VCR's scan mode. Because DOS, like most computer software, is somewhat circular in nature, that is, you need to know everything before you know anything, we recommend that you simply watch the video all the way through the first time. Then, go back and use individual segments with your computer handy. Sometimes we'll show several examples of something while we're discussing it. We trust this enlightens rather than confuses. It's part of our belief that you're a pretty smart person. With that, let's get started learning more about DOS. More MS-DOS. In this video, we'll cover the following and more: directories and how to organize your files, AUTOEXEC.BAT files, check disk, backup and restore, Xcopy, disk compare, tree, how to write batch files, and more switches than you can count. Your files may start out simple, like this, but in mere months, they can look like this, unless you organize your computer the way you think. One of the most important features of DOS is its ability to organize your computer's filing system. The use of directories and subdirectories is the answer. You see, organizing your computer's storage of programs and data is a lot like organizing a file cabinet. We can equate the root directory with a multi-drawer file cabinet. This root directory is articulated as C prompt. For those without a hard drive, the root directory would be shown as an A prompt. Those without a hard drive are limited to the amount of storage space available on a single diskette, usually 360K or 720K, compared to 20 megs or more on a hard disk. Therefore, you will be unable to hold all of your program and data files on one diskette. This simply means you will require more than one diskette for all of your files. A subdirectory, such as DOS, on a hard drive can be equated to one of the drawers in our cabinet and is articulated by C:\DOS. This is where we will place all of our DOS program files. If you don't have a hard drive, the DOS program files would be on a separate diskette or diskettes and would not require a separate subdirectory because the only thing on the diskette is DOS program files. This will be true for most all of your different programs. Where the subdirectory system comes in handy is when you begin to make subdirectories for data files. Data files are those files that are created from your programs. For example, in Lotus 123, you create a spreadsheet of your checkbook. You then save this spreadsheet in the form of a data file. If you haven't done so, turn on your computer system and wait for an A or C prompt. To get from the root directory to the DOS subdirectory on a hard drive, we type cd \DOS and press Enter. If you do not have a DOS subdirectory on your hard drive, you will get the message Invalid Directory. Your DOS files are probably in your root directory. If you have only floppy drives, there is no need to change directories because the DOS diskette in drive A only has a root directory. Now, let's make a subdirectory or file drawer, if you will. We'll use the Lotus 123 program as an example to load onto the hard drive. We might type MD123 and press Enter. You can substitute any program here. Maybe you have a word processing program instead and want to make the subdirectory Word instead of 123. When we make this subdirectory on our hard drive off of the root directory, we think of this as our first level subdirectory. This is the level where we will copy or install our program files. Most application programs will have specific installation instructions that tell you to create a subdirectory for the purpose of holding its program files. When we think about it, there are two types of files associated with any application program. First, there is the program file. This type of file actually runs the program. The second type of file is the data file. These files are created by you using the program files. We have covered where the program file should be maintained in a first-level subdirectory. But what about the data files? Where should they go? Data files should be saved to a second-level subdirectory. Let's continue with our initial 123 subdirectory example. We have established this subdirectory on our hard drive for our Lotus 123 program files. Now we need to create a subdirectory beneath this 123 directory for our data files. If you have a hard drive, at the C prompt, issue the command md:/123 budget and press Enter, making a directory in the C drive in the 123 subdirectory called budget. Remember, the backslash designates your path. Use it between each level of directory for all DOS commands, from change directory to copy, erase to rename. If paths are not used, DOS will assume you mean the directory you're in each drive. Either way will work. If you do not have a hard drive, place a formatted disk in the A drive and at the A prompt, issue the command md:/budget and press Enter. Up until now, it has been difficult for those without hard drives to make use of the subdirectory system. Because of the limited space, it is impossible to fit both program and data files on a single diskette, like you can on the larger hard drives. Often a single program, like Lotus 123, will take one or more diskettes by themselves, while the data files must be saved on yet additional diskettes. It is these data diskettes where creating subdirectories becomes a useful tool. Many times you will want to create more than one data subdirectory per program to help better organize your data system. In this case, if you have a hard drive, issue the command md:/123 and press Enter. If you do not have a hard drive, issue the command md:/finance in the A drive and press Enter. This creates a second data subdirectory next to the subdirectory budget. Now we have the ability to keep our budget data separate from the other financial data. You can have any number of subdirectories and levels. Just keep using backslash in a logical sequence. Before we get into some of the other DOS commands, let's discuss the AUTOEXEC.BAT file. This very important file is a set of DOS instructions that are executed automatically when you boot your computer. Once again, the rules are a little different for those with a hard drive than for those without a hard drive. If you have a hard drive, the AUTOEXEC.BAT file will usually be found in the root directory. For those without a hard drive, the AUTOEXEC.BAT file will probably be found on the DOS diskette. To examine this file in greater detail, we must first locate it. If you are using a non-hard drive system, make sure your DOS diskette is in drive A. Issue the command cd/ and press Enter. This always brings us back to the root directory no matter where we are in the system. Now issue the command dir and press Enter. You should see the AUTOEXEC.BAT file. If you see this when you issued the dir command, re-enter the command dir/p. /P or page is a switch command that displays one page at a time, allowing you time to see all of your files. You can use the /W or wide switch to see more files at once, but you lose date and size information. Most of you should have found the AUTOEXEC.BAT file by now. If you did not locate it, it may not exist on your system, or maybe in another subdirectory or diskette. If you have the file, issue the internal DOS command type AUTOEXEC.BAT and press enter. Our AUTOEXEC.BAT file is a simple version. You may find other commands in your particular file or commands in our file that do not exist in yours. The AUTOEXEC.BAT file can be designed and modified to your particular needs. On the first line, we see the command path C : /C : /DOS. This command tells DOS that no matter what subdirectory or drive you are in, you can access the commands or programs in the root directory or the DOS subdirectory. Most AUTOEXEC.BAT files have a path command that specifies at least the directories we've specified for convenience. If you do not have a specified path to the DOS subdirectory and wish to execute any external DOS commands, you must be in the DOS subdirectory, or for those without a hard drive, have a DOS diskette in drive A. The next commands are date and time. These commands prompt you for the current date and time when you boot the system. It is important to make the effort and enter the current date and time, since DOS will date and time stamp each file when it is saved. This can be very helpful in locating files and executing the backup and restore commands. Our next command is prompt $P $G. This tells DOS to display the name of the current subdirectory at the drive prompt. In other words, when you change directories with the CD / command, for example CD /DOS enter, you will see this prompt instead of a plain prompt. If you don't have an AUTOEXEC.BAT file, you can create one like ours by issuing the commands just covered, like this, and ending with F6. You now have an AUTOEXEC.BAT file. Now we're ready to examine some more DOS commands and their switches. A command switch is used to augment a DOS command and is always preceded by the / key. Different commands have different switches. You should note that not all of the switches mentioned in this video are valid for some of the earlier versions of DOS. Consult your DOS manual for specific switch information. We will start with some external commands such as check disk. Type in CHKDSK and press enter. Remember, if you do not have a specified path to the DOS directory, you need to be in the DOS subdirectory or have DOS in drive A. This command checks your disk for errors and updates you on the space and memory available. If you do not know how large your disk drive is or how much RAM memory you have, this command tells you. The switches for the check disk command are /F, which will attempt to fix any errors or problems, and /V, which displays a detailed progress report on the check disk process. The next two commands, backup and restore, were designed with the hard drive user in mind. Backup is used primarily to copy, for safekeeping, a file or files that are too large to fit on one diskette. This procedure is highly recommended on a daily basis to protect your files from loss or damage. You should never attempt to back up and restore program files from the hard drive, as some of these files may become damaged during the process. Only back up data files. To show this command, let's back up our Lotus 123 data files by typing backup C: /123 /budget /A: and press enter. Observe the message. It's warning us that all the files in the root directory of the target drive A will be destroyed. It also asks us to place diskette 01 in the target drive A. Our first backup disk is always 01. Place a blank formatted diskette in drive A and press any key. The backup process will now begin. When the diskette becomes full, DOS will prompt us to insert diskette 02 and press any key to continue. If you did not fill a diskette, you could have used the copy command instead. We recommend the copy command over the backup command in these cases because the backup command actually alters the structure of the data files, making them unusable until the restore procedure has been done. The backup command has several switches that can be added onto it. The date switch will back up every file that was created on or after a certain date, such as January 15, 1990. The time switch will back up every file that was created at 2 p.m. or after. Of course, you can substitute any date or time that you need. The modified switch, /M, will back up files that have been modified since the last backup procedure. The subdirectory switch, /S, will back up files in the specified subdirectory as well as any other subdirectories beneath. The T, D, and M switches were designed to help reduce the amount of diskette storage space required by backing up only the files that have been modified or created since the last time you backed up or since the date or time you specify. The remainder of your files should have already been backed up at some point in time. These switches also reduce the time it takes to back up your files. We cannot talk about the backup command without talking about the restore command as well. Remember, when we use the backup command, the structure of our files is altered. We can restructure these files back to their original state only by issuing the restore command. You only need to restore files in the event the original files on the hard drive have somehow been altered or damaged. As a restoring example, let's restore our backup files on drive A to the hard drive. Issue the command restore A:/123/budget and press enter. This restores everything on the A disk to the budget subdirectory of the 123 directory. The message on the screen asks us to insert diskette 01 into drive A and strike any key. It should be noted that when using restore, all the files in the subdirectory C123 budget will be overwritten with the files on drive A and therefore lost. This is the intended result. As with the backup command, the restore command has several switches. The /P or prompt switch causes a prompt asking you whether to restore a backup file to a file that has been modified since the last backup. This switch can save you hours of wasted time rebuilding files you did not want restored. The remainder of the switches are very similar to the backup command switches. The subdirectory switch, /S, restores files in the current directory and all subdirectories beneath this directory. The /M, or modified switch, restores all files modified or deleted since the last backup set was made. The before date switch, or /B::date, restores all files before the specified date. The after date switch restores all files created or modified on or after the specified date. The /L time switch restores all files created or modified at or after the specified time. The /E time switch restores all files created or modified at or before the specified time. The /N, or no longer switch, will restore all files that are no longer on the destination directory. Remember that for all date and time functions to work effectively, you must put in an accurate date and time stamp each time you boot your system. The xcopy command is somewhat related to the backup command in that it will copy both files and subdirectories from the source drive when the S switch is added. Xcopy is only available on DOS versions 3.2 or higher. Like the copy command, however, you can only copy the amount of data that will fit on your target drive. In other words, if your source is drive C and the target drive is drive A with a diskette, you can only copy the amount of data that will fit on the diskette. This command will not prompt you for a second diskette when the first diskette becomes full. If you get a disk full message, you need to either xcopy a smaller amount of data or use the backup command. To use this command, place a blank formatted disk in drive A. If you do not have a hard drive, you must type the xcopy command with the DOS diskette in drive A first, using B as the target. If you have a hard drive, issue the command xcopy C:\123 /budget A:/S and press enter. If you do not have a hard drive, issue the command xcopy A:\123 /budget B:/S and press enter. Remove the DOS disk and insert the source disk in drive A and press enter. Follow the instructions on the screen. Place a formatted blank target diskette in drive A for hard drive users and drive B for 2 floppy users and press enter. Xcopy now copies all files in the budget subdirectory, plus all files in any subdirectories beneath the budget subdirectory. We have added a subdirectory called 1989 to our hard drive to illustrate how this switch works. Other switches available for this command include date and time. Just like the backup command, it copies all files created or modified on or before the specified date and time. The /V or verify switch verifies that your copies were recorded correctly on the target drive. The /P or prompt switch causes xcopy to prompt and ask whether a file should be copied or not as a safety precaution. Sometimes you want to compare 2 diskettes before or after a disk copy command. You want to know if 2 different diskettes have the exact same information on them. We accomplish this task with diskcomp or disk compare. We realize some of you have only 1 disk drive, so for a change of pace, we'll illustrate the diskcomp command using only 1 drive. As with virtually all DOS commands, only 1 drive is necessary. If you happen to have 2 diskettes that are the same, place one of them in drive A. If you do not have 2 diskettes the same, place any data diskette in drive A. Issue the command diskcomp A:, and press enter. DOS prompts you to insert the first diskette in drive A and press any key. Once DOS reads the information on this disk, it will prompt you to insert the second diskette into drive A and press any key. If your diskettes are truly identical, you will get this message. If your diskettes are not the same, you will get an error message along with a beep. The more tracks that are different, the more error messages and beeps you will get. An error message simply tells you that there is an inconsistency between the 2 diskettes, and you should treat them accordingly. Our next external command is called tree. This command is designed to give a list of the directories and subdirectories on the drive you specify or the current drive you are in. Issue the command tree and press enter. You will get a list of any subdirectories that exist on your drive. If you would like to know not only what subdirectories exist, but also what files are in those subdirectories, issue the command tree/f. If you use this command on a rather large C drive, the information is displayed quickly and is difficult to read unless you are an excellent speed reader. Unfortunately, the tree command does not have a page switch like the directory command, allowing us to read only 1 page at a time. However, you can issue the command tree/f print and send all of this data to your printer, solving your problem. This print command also works for the directory and type commands as well. Our last DOS command is recover. It's used to recover a file or files that contain bad sectors, or recover a file or files from a disk that has a damaged directory system. This command has no guarantees and cannot recover data lost as a result of erasure or formatting. Do not use this command if you have a damaged program file. But if the damaged file is a data file, your chances are pretty good. If you are experiencing directory problems and are intending to try the recover command on the entire disk drive, we urge caution. This is a dangerous task that can cause damage. If you are at all unsure, seek professional help from a qualified computer vendor or consultant before proceeding with this command. Let's look at a couple of switches for the format command we covered in Introduction to DOS. The Format/S or System switch will place a copy of the Command COM file onto the formatted disk so that it can be booted directly. The /V or Volume switch will prompt you for a volume label after the formatting is completed, allowing you to electronically label your disk as you format. Earlier in our presentation, we talked about the AUTOEXEC.BAT file. If you recall, this is the file that has DOS-specified commands in it and is executed automatically when your computer system is turned on. We can also create our own BAT files to help reduce our keystrokes and time using the copy-con method. A BAT or batch file allows you to execute a whole series of instructions to your computer with just a few keystrokes. One of the most common BAT files created is one that will access a program from the root directory. Let's say we have a WordPerfect program in a subdirectory named Word. Instead of changing directories and typing the program entrance command, we will create a BAT file to do the same thing with the touch of 3 keys. From the C prompt or root directory, issue the command copycon wp.bat and press enter. What we are doing here is copying the keystrokes from the console, or keyboard if you will, to the root directory, hence the name copycon. Now type in cd\word and press enter. Type WP and press enter. Type CD / and press enter. Now press the function key F6 and press enter. The message will say one file copied. Now to execute the command, you would only type WP and press enter. In creating any BAT file, you simply type in all the keyboard commands exactly as you would manually. Sandwich them between copycon and F6, and you can repeat all of those instructions with your BAT file name. You could create BAT files for automatic backup or copy procedures, custom menu systems, and many more. This concludes our video. We covered a lot of ground. First, practice what is most useful to you. Review the tape whenever you have a question.